Hello there. Here's our Chapter 4 test. Listen carefully and follow along. Starting out in number 1, it says name the ways we find the slope, which would be the m, depending on the information. So if they give us 2 points, x1, y1, x2, y2, how would we find the slope? Alright, there's a formula that we use. We've talked about it a lot. You write that here. If you're given a graph, a picture, we always say it's this over this. We just count blank over blank. What's the phrase that we use? Write that here. If the slope of a line is parallel, so if the lines are parallel, their slopes are what? If the slope is perpendicular, what do we do to change and find the slope? We do blank and blank. Okay, so again, in number 1, this should be a formula. Number 2 is a phrase. We count blank and blank. C, the lines are parallel, so the slopes are what? If they're parallel, the slopes are what? And then D, if they're perpendicular, we blank it and blank the slope. Okay. Moving on to number 2. We want to find a slope of going through these 2 points. So here's x1, y1, x2, and y2. So make sure you use our formula to find the slope. Make sure you reduce the equation, or reduce the fraction, I'm sorry. Number 3, they say write the equation of a line. That means it needs to be in y equals mx plus b. Here's your m, here's your b. Just plug them in and rewrite the equation. Number 4, we want to write the equation of a line from the graph. So here's the graph, okay? What's the m? What's the b? Your b is where it crosses the y-axis, and then for your slope, you're going down and over. Which of these 4 is the correct equation of the line? Okay, here's number 5. Again, we want to write the equation of a line. So that means our final answer should be y equals blank x plus or minus what for the b? So remember, your m is going to go here, your b is going to go here. To find that, look at the graph. You can see your b right here. The m, it's going to be hard to count up and over, but you could. They're counting by ones, okay? So this would be at 0, so 1, then up 2, and then use the tick marks here to count over. Okay, 6 and 7. We're going to skip number 6, okay? But we will do number 7. This is your x, this is your y. All right, so x1, y1, x2, and y2. We want to write the equation in y equals mx plus b. So first, we need to find the slope. So you're going to go y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Find your slope, that's your m. And then choose one of these 2 points, negative 5, 6, or negative 3 and 2. All right, and let's plug it into point slope. So the second step, so here's step 1, here's step 2. Going to go y minus y1 equals that slope you found times x minus x1. So remember, you're replacing those variables with whichever. I would choose this point myself, smaller numbers, and the m that you find. Okay, then simplify by distributive property and adding or subtracting that y value number over, so that's in y equals mx plus b. If you have questions, make sure you ask. Okay, number 8. Basically the same steps as what you did in 7, only they give you the slope. So here's a point x and y. You need the b. Okay, this is your m. So let's use y, or the slope intercept. Okay. And replace these 3 variables with the numbers you have here and solve for b. Once you know b, remember you need to rewrite it. Y equals something x plus or minus whatever your b is. If you get a negative number, remember, just put minus 6. Don't put plus minus 6. Okay, number 9. They want this in point slope form. Okay, and you got 4 choices here. So remember, that's an x, that's a y, and that's an m. So which of these 4 would be correct in point slope form? Number 10, you're going to rewrite it the same way. They want 3 answers here. I'm going to give you one of them, but remember, this slope is -3, and the point is -2 and -3. Alright. So standard form, I'm not going to make you do. We've talked about it, but not a ton. But point slope, this is what you want to plug it into first. Point slope's just like what these were up here. And actually let me zoom out just a hair. This is the point slope form. So plug these 3 numbers into this formula, write it down here. Then reduce it to slope intercept, y equals mx plus b, on this line. Okay, number 11. You're given the equation of a line in point slope form. They want us to put it in slope intercept and graph it. So we're going to need to do some work here just a little bit. Oops. -2 times x plus 5, right? Remember, we need to distribute and multiply that number through to everybody first. And then you're going to need to add the 7 over to the other side. That'll put it into y equals mx plus b form. Once you have that, give us your m and your b, and you need to then graph this. Start with the b, and then use your slope. Count up and over or down and over if it's negative. That way. That's number 11. Okay, number 12. Again, we're going to graph this and write it in slope intercept form. So basically the same thing as what you just did. Okay. The only difference is here's your x, here's your y, this is your m. So let's plug this into point slope. In the last problem, they already had it plugged in. Please remember, those are the values you're replacing with these 3 numbers. Plug them in, and then follow the same steps that we did up here. Distribute and multiply that number through, add or subtract the whole number over. So write the equation, and then sketch it on the graph. Okay, we're going to skip number 13 just to help save us a little bit of time. We're going to go down to 14 now. We're writing an equation of a line that goes through the point. So here's your x and y, -5 and 1, but it's parallel to this line here. If they're parallel, their slopes are the same. So use his slope, okay? And let's plug it all into, again, the point slope form. Okay, and work it down into slope intercept. Here are your 4 choices. So if you don't get one of these 4, you've done something wrong. You better check your work up here. Okay, last page here. We're going to write the equation of a line again. We're doing the same work. There's your x and y. There's your point. Now the slope, well, this is going to be perpendicular. Remember on the very first problem on the first page, there was a phrase we had to blank and blank. Well, if the slope is a -3, or -3 over 1, we got to flip it and change the sign. So the new slope should be what? Over what? Those are 2 question marks, by the way. Then plug it into point slope. So now the work is the same as you've done the last few problems. And one of these 4 would be your answer. Okay, number 16, we're going to write the equation of a line that's parallel with this guy. He's going to be parallel, and we're going to draw him, but he goes through this point here. So we need the M of the first line. So you zoom in here, and so this is 1, 2, or -1, -2, I should say. That's -3. This would be -4. So they're all counting by 1. So you need to count up and over to get the slope of line 1. Okay. Once you have his slope. Okay, sorry, I got interrupted there. The phone rang telling us there was a 2-hour delay, but I think we just talked about you find a slope of line 1 and put that here. And since they're parallel, we're going to use the same slope here. And then we already know here's our point 1, 0, so there's your x and y. So again, plug it into y minus y1 equals x times x minus x1. Remember, all this time we're doing the same thing. We're just starting it out differently. So replacing these values, and then distribute that number through, add or subtract that number over to write our equation. Okay? We're going to skip number 17. It's the exact same problem we just did, basically. We are going to do 18. It's another perpendicular problem. So again, it's just how it starts out a little bit different. All right. So we've got the equation. We want to write the equation of a line. It's going to go through the point -3 and 7. So there's my x and my y. And remember, we got to do something here with this to get our new slope. We got a blank and blank. You got to do 2 things. I already kind of guided you here. And then what do you got to do with this sign? Then, excuse me, once you have that, that's your M right here. Plug it back into this and work it down just like you have been. All right. And number 19, this is the last problem of the test. And we've got 2 lines. It's wanting to know, are they parallel, perpendicular, neither parallel or perpendicular, like neither, or are they the exact same line? So the first equation, oops, trying to zoom in here. The first equation is already in slope-intercept form. This one over here is not, so I'm going to help you get it into it. So I subtract 2x on both sides, and now I have 4y equals -2x plus 8. I divide by 4. That leaves me with y equals and a negative 2 over 4 is going to be a negative 1/2 x. 8 divided by 4 is a positive 2. So they're not the same line. If they were the same line, the equations would be the exact same. So the key here is look at their slopes. Okay, so this is like a 2 over 1 right here. All right. So looking at their slopes, that'll tell you if they're parallel or perpendicular. Okay. So that's what you're looking for, and you got A, B, C, or D there. All right. That's the end of your test. If you have questions, make sure you let me know. Have a great day. God bless.